can't outrun your soul. The famine really is in here a lot of the time, and when we miss that, life grows hollow, and then we tend to search for fullness anywhere but where God says it can be found. We wander into deserts looking for oceans when God is waiting for us to turn back to him. We've been digging into the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew 1 this December, because Matthew, as he's leading up to the story of the birth of Christ, points out a few really messy spots in Jesus' family story. And he does that by putting the names of some women into the genealogy, which is something that didn't happen in the first century. But each one of the women who are included has a particularly messy story. They're kind of the people that we write out of most family trees. They do not fit neatly on a Christmas card. And yet somehow each one of them fits uniquely in the story God was writing about the birth of his son. Last week we talked about Tamar and how her story demonstrates that God brings justice into injustice. And this week we're going to dig into the story of a woman named Ruth, whose story shows us that God brings hope into hopelessness. And he does that by being faithful to us even when we are not faithful to him. So if you got a Bible, you can crack it open to the book of Ruth this morning. If you don't have one, no worries, the words will be on the screen. If you need one, or your kids do, we have a whole bunch of them on a bookshelf in the prayer room right outside those doors. We love it when they disappear. Please take what you need. But Ruth, it's if you hit Judges, keep going. If you hit 1 Samuel, go back. It's this incredible story that's kind of dropped into a really unique time period in the nation of Israel, almost right between this era of the judges and the era of the kings. And this is how the book begins. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. I want to press pause for a minute and set the stage, because there's a lot of context we got to understand here if we're going to fully grasp what's going on. We read that there's a famine in the land, and I don't want us to miss the significance of that. A famine means that there had been a failure of faithfulness. See, when God took the Israelites out of Egypt, he made them this promise. He said, listen, I'm going to be your God, and you're going to be my people. Not because you're better than everybody else, but because I want to show the entire world who I am and how I love through you. And I'm going to be faithful to you no matter what. Like, no matter what you do, no matter how you reject me, no matter where you try to go, I'm going to be faithful to you. And you guys, I want you to know this morning, that's still true. That's still who our God is. No matter how far you've run, no matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, no matter what's happened to you, he is faithful to you. He's going nowhere. His faithfulness to you does not depend on your faithfulness back. However, and I think this is something we miss sometimes and something we forget sometimes, your experience of his faithfulness does depend on you. Because when you run away from God, when you hold a hand up to him, when you reject him and you walk away, sometimes it's hard to feel the power of his presence. His promises to us are inherently relational. And so when we're disconnected from God, sometimes we don't feel the fullness of how faithful he's actually been and remains in our lives. And this is the story of what happened to this family at the beginning of Ruth. It's the story of what happened to the entire nation of Israel. There's a famine, there's a faithfulness failure, because God had promised, if you're faithful to me, I'm going to bless you. That's what's going to happen when you enter into this promised land. And now the blessings have dried up. The crops have dried up because of this faithfulness failure. And what that's meant to do in their lives is remind them that they've accidentally created some distance between them and God. It's meant to remind them, not that he stopped being faithful to them, but then they're not experiencing it anymore because they walked away. And so this famine isn't an agricultural crisis as much as it is a spiritual diagnosis. And the failure here, the faithfulness failure, is not on God's end, which leaves us with only one option. It's the Israelites' fault. And can we admit something? Like, that's a frustrating reality sometimes, at least for me. Like, it's hard to be connected to somebody who never messes up. And so every frustration is your fault, not theirs. Like even in my marriage, it's mostly my fault. But occasionally it's Jenny's fault. And I'm like, I got one, right? That's just how it works. But with God, like every time I'm mad at him, every time I'm frustrated because he doesn't seem to be providing for me the way I expected him to provide, and I don't want to be angry, he's perfect. And so, in the words of the great theologian Taylor Swift, it's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. And that's life for me, that's life for the Israelites in this moment. And we know that's what's happening with the famine because the book kicks off by telling us that it occurred in the time when the judges ruled. And this is this period between when Joshua led Israel into the promised land and when Saul became the first king. And if you could sum up that era in the life of Israel with one sentence, it would be the last sentence in the book of Judges. The last Bible verse before the book of Ruth. It says, in those days Israel had no king. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. Basically, sin and selfishness ruled the day. Everybody did their own thing. And so the famine was a consequence that should have caused them to turn around. See, God's purpose in allowing the crops to go missing beneath the surface of their fields was to point his people to what was missing beneath the surface of their souls. The crops stopped growing not because God stopped being faithful, but because distance from God always creates emptiness in life. And the appropriate response to that is repentance. It's to turn around and realize his promises are experienced in proximity and were meant for him. But that's not our natural inclination as human beings. It's not my natural inclination. And usually, instead of turning back toward God, when things go wrong, we get angry and we run away from him, and then we blame him for abandoning us. Like, where did you go? But here's the thing, and I want us all to know that we know it this morning. God's faithfulness isn't fragile, but our faith in it often is. And when we lose faith in his goodness and then crisis hits, instead of repentance, we often try relocation. We don't turn back to him because we don't fully trust him. We just try to shift our circumstances around in some meaningful way. That's a natural human thing to do. It's what my kids do every time they're in trouble. Like a few weeks ago, Jenny made cookies for work, and she said, nobody eat these cookies. And then I went into the kitchen, and there were a handful of cookies missing. And listen, I'm a pastor, so I don't yell, I rebuke. That's what I call it. I bring the spiritual rebuke to the family. And so I began rebuking the kids by saying, hey, who ate these cookies? And instead of repenting, instead of coming to the kitchen, I heard footsteps scattering throughout the house because they're like, maybe I can relocate my way out of this rebuke. And we do the exact same thing all the time. We're like, all right, maybe if I'm not there, he won't notice. That's what this family did. They tried to relocate their way out of God's rebuke. And man, I want to judge them for that, but I see it too often. I see it in my own life. I see it in the lives of people all around me. As a pastor, people sit in my office and like, hey, my marriage is broken. I think I need a new one. Instead of trying to solve what's going on, a new husband is the solution. A new wife, that would fix everything that's broken, because the solution the problem is out there. The solution's out there. It couldn't be in here. The famine's not in here, right? Or hey, my house group isn't checking every single box for me that I thought it would check. So instead of showing up and seeing what I have to give, I need a new group. I don't like my job. I need a new job. I don't like my house. I need a new house. I don't like my friends. I need new friends. I need new. And in this situation, here's this whole family. It's well, things aren't working here. So instead of turning to God and asking what he wants me to do, I need a new spot. I need to go to some different place where things are working out well. And so this man from Bethlehem responded to the famine by moving his family to Moab. And when we hear Bethlehem, it probably jumps off the page for us because it's the Christmas season, right? But Bethlehem is meant to jump off the page in this story for a totally different reason. Beit Lechem means house of bread. It was a town in the center of a region in Israel famous for the grain that grew there. It's literally named because it's the place where God provided. The town of Bethlehem was meant to be a reminder to everyone in the entire nation that this is where God provides for his people. And yet, in a time of crisis, this guy walked away from the spot where God provides and moved to the land of his enemies. This wasn't just a physical, geographical relocation. It's a spiritual relocation. It was one step even further away from God. And again, it's a natural human thing, but rebooting our lives instead of reorienting our hearts never quite works because you can't outrun your soul. The famine really is in here a lot of the time, and when we miss that, life grows hollow, and then we tend to search for fullness anywhere but where God says it can be found. We wander into deserts looking for oceans when God is waiting for us to turn back to him.